only do one thing really well over the next 2 decades, I want it to be parenting and family and marriage. Like, it took me a while to get there. I think there's definitely been times over the last 10 years where I've felt like, okay, the priority is pushing my career forward, and then like I also enjoy having a family. I'm kind of making that realization, like I get one shot at being a dad, and I want to do a lot better over the next 10 years. As men, as dads, I think we can get hyper-focused on like feeling productive, because it feels good to be productive. And there's something about parenting sometimes it can feel less than productive. Only if we have the wrong objectives, right? If we've got the right objectives and our mind is single on those objectives, then what used to feel not productive can feel like, okay, I'm moving something forward that matters. The hierarchy of like, okay, what comes first is really important to have figured out, because if kids come first and marriage comes second, that's a totally different paradigm in the home than if marriage is, first and foremost. And of course, even before your spouse and your marriage, you need to put God first. When those priorities are in the right order, things fall into place. Whereas, if you get those flip-flopped, it creates some issues. Winning in one area of life always spills over into winning in more areas of life. That's what I find. You see the results of that discipline over time. It's like, okay, what other things could I do a little bit each day that would compound? It starts to retrain your brain that like, okay, these little things each day do compound into real measurable progress over time. Discipline is the how, right? Discipline is how we get from A to B. If we've got these objectives and where we are doesn't match those objectives, discipline helps you span that gap. But if you lose sight of what the objective is, the why, and it starts to be all about the habits and the discipline, eventually that gets really burdensome and really heavy. And so continuing to kind of go back to evaluating some of that and like, okay, why am I doing this? How does this support my goals? And do I have the conviction to continue? Because otherwise, we're all going to burn out on those things where we've lost that why and we've gotten so consumed with the how of discipline. What was that part of your brain you were talking about earlier that like is like the will to live or whatever?
Yeah, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Wow.
Right off the top.
That's an SAT
like
word right there. Dude, I like that a lot.
I think when we were growing up, what was the word that you used to love to say?
Oh, pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. Still got it, baby.
Still got it.
I think there's a real strong case to be made for kind of artificially creating some deprivation for your kids, even if you could give them all the things they wanted.
Why do you think people avoid the more mysterious or uncomfortable parts of the Bible, like you're describing?
That's such a good question. The very core of our Christian faith is this miracle of resurrection, and yet other supernatural stuff we're uncomfortable with. That's never made sense to me. It's a weird.
I like weird.
It's a weird path. Okay, stick with me, Brock.
I'm right here.
So,
Evan Jennings, what's up, dude?
I'm warming up.
How you feeling?
I'm warming up.
People are in
My fingers, I can feel them again a little bit.
First ever real cold plunge, 3 minutes.
I thought you were joking when you said 3 minutes. I legitimately thought you were trying to see if I'd believe you.
No, that's the price of admission.
Jeez Louise.
If you're going to jump in my tub, it's 3 minutes. I'll be honest with you. You handled it like a champ. Do you feel
Not
like
breathing
you did?
for the first minute? The first minute I did not feel good about. I felt like a wimp. After that, it got a little better.
Yeah, that
More
thermal
manageable.
layer is a real deal.
Yeah, no, I switched my feet around and then I hated you for telling me that.
Yes. Yeah, that's a Joe Rogan thing. He's like, you got to move your arms around. Well, he's got the kind that has like the river flowing in it. Yeah, crazy.
That exists?
Funny story. When it was the middle of winter, like 3 years ago, Nick has a river flowing. My brother-in-law Nick has the river right
creek
there
behind him.
Yeah. So that gets down to 32 degrees in the wintertime. So we thought it was a good idea at like 4:45 or 5 in the morning to go over there.
Like dead of winter?
Dead of winter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, snow on the ground, the whole deal. And it's not really that close to his house. It's like 100 yards. So you have to like walk all the way out there with
Were
cold
you clothed while you walked out there, or did you just...
feet. Yeah, clothed out.
Okay, all right.
Freezing so much that we just ran in afterwards. 32 degree rushing water hits a little different. We did 30 seconds.
That's still a lot, dude, in that.
Yeah.
That's when I've done like the beaver camp polar plunge. That's the worst part, is like getting out of the water and just not being able to breathe.
Yeah.
Yep. And the instant headache, that sucks too.
Yeah. Stephanie got me one of those like little PVC pipe ones that you can like put outside. You seen those? They're like a mesh or like a tarp, kind of like a canopy tarp thing.
I don't think so.
With a frame, so you can put water in it.
Yeah.
And then it'll freeze over in the wintertime. So
Okay.
it's like 32 degrees. You have to like smash it open.
Yeah.
So last winter I tried that, and first of all, too much work. Way too much work.
Smashing it or whatever, getting into
it's
it.
standing
Yeah.
outside when it's like 10 degrees below freezing.
Also that.
Smashing it. And then I started with, 30 seconds, worked up to like a minute and 15, minute and 20. And then just kind of went back to the old way I was doing it before we got the new one. The new one here, that'll stay
That's
at,
pretty nifty.
yeah, that'll stay at between 30, I think it's 38. 38 is the lowest it'll go. And
Okay.
I keep it like 45, 46.
It felt colder than that.
It does.
I don't know.
Yes. Anybody who says that's not very cold, you should come try.
Yeah.
It's an open invitation.
Yeah.
What were your first thoughts once you got out?
Well, like we talked about when you were doing your dip, it was like, I'm glad it's over, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Simultaneously. Yep.
Yeah.
No regret, but
no regrets.
but still glad it was over.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. It's like definitely the most like trendy thing that I do.
Yeah, it is pretty trendy. I'm surprised. It is trendy, but yet I don't know a ton of people who do it, or at least maybe I just don't have friends who are trendy. I don't know, but yeah, I know your brother has done it too. Some I don't know if he's still into it.
Which brother?
Calder.
Calder
I
does.
don't know.
Some.
He had set one up at some point a couple
Yeah.
winters ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's doing it this winter.
Tyler
or not.
has too.
Okay.
The other part that I didn't mention when we were in there, the reason why I do is getting a little older. Hate to admit that. It's so good for recovery, like after playing basketball or doing heavy exercise, stuff like that. Big difference. I'm not sore afterwards anymore.
It's like a full body ice pack.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. There's a reason that athletes do it and stuff like that, because it just reduces inflammation. And then
Well, that's what they say. You're supposed to kind of mix heat and ice, right? Because you get the inflammation benefits from ice, but then you get the muscle relaxant kind of benefits from a little bit of heat.
yeah, there's a whole science to it. I haven't really done a lot of hot and cold therapy. I don't know. Maybe it just seems like too much time to me.
I prefer hot to cold.
Yeah. Sauna versus cold plunge. Yeah. All right, man. Welcome back. This is cool. This is third time.
Yeah.
Is the charm. First
for
time just
having
you and
me.
me, though.
It is. First time it was with Nick.
Yeah. And
So it's the
then
three of us. And then we had Ez last time, which was awesome.
for the debate,
Shout out to Ez. Debate. Come on.
discussion.
Talk. Friendly discussion. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was
but
fun.
I'm grateful to be here again, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. I'm hoping that this format will be kind of just relaxed. We'll be able to get to a little bit more about who you are. We haven't really done a lot of that.
Not a lot.
The first episode was a little bit more like topical.
Yep.
Second episode, obviously, with Ez was different. That was more political.
Yep.
But I'd like to get more into the deeper stuff,
Sweet.
if that's okay with you.
That's more than okay. I'm
Okay.
bad at small talk anyway.
So if anybody didn't know
Okay.
Evan Jennings, what would they need to know to understand the man sitting across from me?
I don't know where to start. I love Jesus and got 4 kids, which in Lewis County feels kind of normal, but I'm only 30, so in most of the world, I'm kind of a weirdo for having 4 kids already. And I just started a business a year ago, so that's kind of been terrifying. And I'm kind of perpetually, I've got a little bit of shiny object syndrome. That's probably a big part of me. Like I'm always like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a flaw or not, but sometimes it feels that way. But I definitely I enjoy change. So I don't know.
Do you find that it's different seasons or a certain amount of period before you are looking for something else?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I like to kind of get myself into trouble and then have to figure my way through it.
Okay.
And then by the time things get kind of commonplace and easy, it's like, all right, this has been long enough. What's the next difficult thing to try? So that's kind of followed me through my career somewhat. Like I've never stayed at any one company super long. Longest tenure I ever had at one place was 3 years at Amazon. yeah, but like after a couple of years, I'm like, all right, this is getting a little bit easy, not learning a lot. Like, what's next?
Yeah, that's pretty short. 3
That's very
years
short.
being your longest tenure somewhere.
I know.
It's funny. This is becoming a theme the last 2 or 3 episodes. When Connor and Iris were on, she talked about how every 5 years you're a different person. And a lot of that relates to what's going on in your life, how you've developed, so on and so forth. And then the last episode, which will release after this one. Wait, no. My kid's screaming. The next episode that actually, let's see, how am I going to, this will release after. Okay, so then the following episode was my dad.
Yep.
And he talked about how all throughout his life, about every 5 years, he was looking for something else.
Really? He said the same thing that Iris did.
Same thing.
Okay. Interesting.
But kind of piggybacking off each other, because I think that that's because shiny object syndrome, partly for my dad, but also like he's probably a little bit of a different person every 5 years, looking for different interests to keep him energetic and fired up about something. But she was basically just telling us that Iris was saying that every 5 years your life looks totally different and you've developed in totally different ways. Like put yourself 5 years ago, how much has your life changed since then?
Yeah, I mean it's way different. It wouldn't hardly resemble it. Actually, what's today? The 12th. 5 years ago tomorrow, we moved to our house in Lowville. So we were still in transition 5 years ago, technically, moving from Rhode Island back to Lowville. We would have only had 2 kids, one of which was less than a year old.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot has changed since then.
Well, for me, 5 years ago, 5 years ago today, I was policing still.
Yep.
So I was in a totally different state, totally different job. Wasn't even married yet. Yes, I was. 5 years ago. Yes, I was. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see just in a short amount of time how different your life is. So
yeah, 5 years, something about it sounds like not a lot of time, but then you think back to 5 years ago, and it's like, no, that's a lot of time. A lot can happen in 5 years.
Yep.
That's really interesting that theme continued across a couple of those episodes.
Yeah, it seems whenever it seems to do that, I pay attention to kind of connections from people that I really admire and like to talk to, and because there's probably some meaningful data there.
Yeah.
Some good insight. So, all right, married. And how many kids? 4. And you felt like that's a pretty good number. None on the way. 4 seems like a good number. Okay, tell me how being a father has changed the way you look at life.
It's so funny. I don't know if I'm just like, if I catch on slow or something, but it took me, I've been a father now for almost 9 years. My oldest will turn 9 pretty soon here. It took me about 9 years to figure out, like, okay, I'm only going to have kids for so long before they're like grown and out of the house. My son Reese is almost halfway to being a man now, being an adult. And like I kind of finally put words to this and realized this. If I can only do one thing really well over the next 2 decades, I want it to be parenting and family and marriage. Like if every other part of my life doesn't go well and I can pick one part of my life to go really well, that's my priority right now. And it took me a while to get there. I think, although I would have never put this into words, there's definitely been times over the last 10 years where I've felt like, okay, the priority is pushing my career forward, and then like I also enjoy having a family. And yeah, I wish I should have probably figured this out before now, but I'm kind of making that realization. Like I get one shot at being a dad, and I think I've done all right so far, but I want to do a lot better over the next 10 years.
Over the next 10 years, what does that look like in practicality? If you were to look and say, this is the kind of ideal father I want to be, what does that look like?
I think it just means being really intentional and mindful about, like, what do I want to teach my kids? What do I want them to leave my house understanding and taking with them? And, okay, what's the most effective way to transmit that character, that information, those values, that faith, like all of that? Because part of me just wants to think that, like, oh, it's just, you just be a good person. you follow the Lord and like everything's just going to work out. And there's some truth to that, right? I mean, if you have the fundamentals right, that's a good start. But I think there's a lot more that I personally can do to think, okay, what exactly do I want my son Reese, for example, to be leaving with when he's 18 or 20 or whenever he kind of flies the coop, and then starting to work towards some of those things more explicitly and intentionally. Yeah.
I think a lot of times with parents in general, I'm glad that you've kind of coming to that realization at, 9 years in, to where, that's actually something I should probably focus a little bit more on and spend more time pursuing.
Right. Not just give it lip service, but like actually put my time where my mouth is, so to speak.
What that's looked like for me. And I think I've learned, I'm only 4 years into parenting, but I'm learning from people who are further along like yourself, because this is also another thing that I've heard so many times. Like, hey, guess what? You're not going to wish that you worked more. When it's all said and done, you're going to wish that you invested in these relationships and spent the time with them, and you were present with them emotionally. You were not disconnected with technology, all of these different things. And in real time, I'm trying to apply that in my life, and I've seen huge benefit from it. When my 4-year-old comes up and wants to play catch, like, I'm not going to say no to that.
Yep.
That's going to be a priority unless I have something that like absolutely has to be done.
Right.
I want to make sure that I'm being intentional, saying, yeah, like, let's do that.
Yep. I think it starts with, what are my objectives? What am I actually trying to solve for here? Because as men, as dads, I think we can get hyper focused on like feeling productive, because it feels good to be productive. And there's something about parenting sometimes that can feel less than productive.
Yeah.
And only if we have the wrong objectives, right? If we've got the right objectives and our mind is single on those objectives, then what used to feel not productive can feel like, okay, I'm moving something forward that matters.
Yeah. And I think framing the approach from the outset is what's helped so much, where consciously making the effort that when this situation arises, which it will, I'm going to decide ahead of time to say yes to that.
Right.
And that helps me to not get so caught up in the other things that I have to do.
Yep.
If I've already shifted my priorities ahead of time. It's harder to do that in real time than to prepare those steps, and then carry them out, I think. Yeah.
Well, our character, who we are is what we do in the moment. Those knee jerk, like, what am I going to do in this? And we have, like you said, we have to plan for that. We have to practice that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what comes out.
My knee jerk reaction is I have stuff to do.
Yep. Same.
Like, I think that's something I struggle with, where I would love to spend that time, that quality time, but in the back of my mind, sometimes that stuff piles up. Yep. And then it feels like I'm playing catch up, which is then stressful for me. But I'm learning slowly that stuff doesn't actually matter.
Yep.
And it'll get done when it gets done. I can make time for it other times.
Yep.
But
and some of those to-do list items, you have to finally decide, you know what, it's just not going to happen. Like some of the, okay, yeah, you got to file taxes, but there's some things that are on that to-do list that...
Do you?
Okay. All right.
Yes, you do. You should. Did you hear about not to get into this, but did you hear about the tax strike that's allegedly going to be coming up here?
No.
A lot of people, in lieu of all the fraud that's being kind of talked about lately, are kind of like, no, we're just going to go on a boycott. Yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. I plan to pay my taxes for anybody listening, especially the IRS. You're listening. But
I did not hear about that.
Yeah. But no, back to the broader point is that, if you can involve them in things, that's been really fun to do lately.
Dude, that's so hard. It depends. Like, one of the things that I liked about my upbringing was that I was able to do stuff with my dad, work on the farm or whatever. And I'll be the first to admit, I spent my whole childhood being like, nope, I'm not going to do this kind of work when I grow up. Like, I'm going to be doing something different. So it's not like I was in love with it, but being with dad every day, learning skills, and there's a lot of value in that. And, in my line of work, I struggle to think about, like, how can I bring my kids into this? Because, man, that's so important to not see it as a trade-off. Okay, am I going to be with my family, or am I going to do X, Y, and Z? I've started bringing my kids along with me to the gym. Like my son Reese is bench pressing right there with me and stuff. And like, what are the things that I can involve them in, instead of seeing as this, like, okay, I have to pick one or the other.
That kind of brings you back to the framework. You have to realize that when you involve your kids in chores, which I don't like, I don't love the word chores. When you involve your kids in things that you need to have done,
right,
it's going to take you longer.
Yeah, the first few times.
Yeah,
the first 5 times, 10 times. Eventually,
yeah,
it gets a little bit easier.
It'll be net positive for time spent.
Yep,
time efficiency.
But there's that hump you have to get over that's difficult.
You mentioned your dad. Tell me about your dad.
My dad is a dabbler, if there ever was one. But he's good at a lot of things. Some jacks of all trades kind of suck at a lot of the things they do. My dad's really good at a lot of different things. Very, very smart guy. And he just, I gotta give him credit. He does what he enjoys, and he's not particularly scared of the risks or what could go wrong. I mean, he's really, he sees the positive, and and he's led a very non-conventional kind of career path in life so far, but done really well. And I think seeing where he and my mom came from in terms of their background spiritually and all the rest, to kind of where they've brought their family, is super inspiring.
When you think about your parents, is there anything from the way that they parented you and your siblings that you want to carry to your kids?
A lot. Most of it. There'd be a few things here and there that we're doing differently, but one of the big things that comes to mind is, especially my mom has always been very quick to say sorry. Very quick if she makes a mistake, to own it and to say, I shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that. And that goes so far. I mean, I learned the value of that at a really young age. And so with my kids, I'm striving to do the same. Be a person, don't be perfect. If I make a mistake, just own up to it. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I think there's an element where they don't really live by some of the same rules that other people do. Not to say that they're outlaws or anything, but just the standard, like, okay, this is what you do in life. You have to go to college, and then you have to do this, and you have to do this. And they've definitely colored outside the lines with some of that. And I'm just starting on that journey myself after about a decade in more of a traditional path, kind of starting to color outside the lines a little bit. So many things that I've drawn from my own upbringing.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you talk about coloring outside the lines, you're talking about influences from when you were growing up and kind of butting up against the borders a little bit, seeing what works for you.
Just like there's like the normal way to do things in life. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think
unquote.
Right. Which what even is normal? But there's certainly the easy way of doing things. And homeschooling is not particularly easy. Self-employment is not particularly easy. High degree of church involvement is not particularly easy. The list could go on and on of some of the things that my parents chose to do as they raised their kids that were, again, a little bit less than mainstream, a little bit less than easy. And just having that realization from an early age, like, okay, there's different ways to do things. There's not one way to live life.
Mm-hmm. When you watched their marriage as a kid, did anything rub off to you?
They really like being together. Like they just, they have a lot of fun. They joke around a lot. I think that there's a lot of just genuine, like, we enjoy being together. They have a similar sense of humor, or they've developed a similar sense of humor, I should say. And that's probably one of the biggest things that sticks out about their marriage.
That can make a lot of tense things a lot easier.
Yeah.
A lot of hard things, not so hard.
Yeah.
A lot of conflicts, not that big of a deal.
Right.
That's a good way to think of things. My mom and dad went through something really hard when we were, I think I was my early teens maybe. And they did a good job kind of sheltering us from that, because it wasn't wasn't something that we needed to be involved in. Really, it was something they were dealing with, particularly with the church. And one of the best ways they said that helped get them through that was Green Acres, watching a comedy, Green Acres, together,
Interesting.
every night, laughing together.
Yep.
In the midst of a very difficult season.
Yep.
I thought that was so interesting because joy is sometimes something so hard to find in those moments where everything feels cloudy, and is the antidote to getting through those things relatively unscathed, especially if you can do it with somebody else. And
dude, that's biblical, bro. There's proverbs about laughter being a medicine and joy doing so much good for your heart.
Yeah,
so much truth to that.
And how many times, and we've done this in my marriage too, is like if you could find a way to make a joke in the middle of an argument, even a self-deprecating joke, whatever, then it seems to just relieve the tension and kind of
This brings you back to like, okay, we're on the same team here.
Yeah, and 99.9% of the arguments, luckily, that we have are so futile, they just don't matter. And sometimes it's good to say that too in the middle, like, this is kind of
minor.
Yeah, this is why are we doing this? This is not fun.
Yeah. Dude, that's cool about your parents though. It's really that's another thing. Speaking of things that I'm wanting to do differently this decade, I think my wife and I got really good for the past 10 years at being like a team. Like, okay, divide and conquer. Get it
With
done.
4, you have to.
Right, but we had kind of started to lose sight of just that, joy of being together and spending time together, and that's something that we're really emphasizing as of late. And one of the many things that I want to start doing differently in the coming years.
So being intentional as a father is also part of that is reflecting onto your marriage so that your kids see a healthy marriage. Healthy home is surrounding by a healthy marital unit.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to fake everything else if that's not working right.
Yep.
That's a big time core. What's your relationship like in your marriage?
It's really good. I mean, there's always ways to do better. I think my wife and I have a lot of freedom to communicate what we're thinking and feeling pretty openly, and that helps. But like you just alluded to, the hierarchy of like, okay, what comes first is really important to have figured out, because if kids come first and marriage comes second, that's a totally different paradigm in the home than if marriage is, first and foremost. And of course, even before your spouse and your marriage, you need to put God first. But everything, when those priorities are in the right order, and not just like, okay, yeah, we wrote it on the wall, so that's our priorities, but actually there's action put behind that, things fall into place. Whereas, if you get those flip-flopped, it creates some issues.
Part of, I guess, leading your home is understanding what leadership is. Do you have like a general philosophy on leadership? Is it like a lead by example, or is it a firm but fair, or is it like a lot of these different things that can be applied not only to your home life, but then to your professional life?
Yeah. I don't know if it's the right answer, but I think if I had any philosophy, it's don't take any of it too terribly seriously. Like have some fun. And that's one of our core values at Quantify, actually. My company is levity. Let's have some fun. Let's not take ourselves too seriously. And a big chunk of that is humility too. I made reference to that earlier, like just seeing my mom growing up really be good at like owning her mistakes. And so I think both in my marriage and in parenting as well as in business, I see a lot of value in leading with, being firm, being decisive, but really just taking some time to laugh and have a good time and not take it all too seriously.
Can that be a hard balance sometimes?
Yeah, and I don't know if I hit that balance right all the time. You see other, like, a parenting style that's very foreign to me. In the clip we just watched of Sean Harney, like he was talking about his dad saying like, get up, we're going to the bus station, you're heading back down to Wilkes-Barre. And that sort of like hard nose, parenting is not, that's not how I was raised, really. It's not how I'm raising my kids. And yet you can see a lot of really good come out of that style. So it's hard to say that there's one perfect way to do it. But I only know what I know.
Yeah, we're kind of all on this journey together.
Right.
Figuring it out as we go.
Yep.
And it takes a mixture of all of these things. You don't want to be too hard on any one side of things.
Yep. Yeah, because you can see, I think with that harder leadership style or method of parenting, you can see a lot of character and resilience produced by that, but you also see fractured relationships. You also see people's, with their dads particularly, maybe a strained relationship for a lot of their life, and that's hard, as well. There's downsides.
Okay, I'd be interested to hear your opinion about this. Do you think that is more temperamental or personality? I guess they kind of go in hand, but what I mean is when you have an approach with different children who have different tendencies, who have different personalities and temperaments, kind of parenting them all in a little bit different way to try to foster the good sides and I guess not manifest the bad side so much. For example, Tyson was on a while back and he was talking about how his children respond to discipline differently.
Yep.
When he's discipling them, he can tell when,
So
one of
true.
them's heart is repentant right away and the other one's having a harder time getting to that. You have to address those very differently.
Yep.
If you come down too hard on somebody who's already kind of relinquished that they've been, wrong about something or they're ready to fix it, then that could do more damage.
Yep.
And letting go on somebody who's not there is also damaging. So,
Yep. Yeah, you know what it makes me think of? I'll withhold names, but I was talking to a guy back in November, I want to say, who was raised in an Amish family, a bunch of siblings, kind of, that's how it usually goes for the Amish. And basically got kicked out or left home, in his mid-teens. Still to this day doesn't really have a relationship with his family. And a large part of it was just the severity of discipline and kind of the parenting style, and really ostracized him and really made him feel like, yeah, I don't belong here. And so what it makes me think of is the more children you have, it's easy to see, okay, yeah, his parents should have done something differently because they just destroyed their relationship with their son. Also, when you have 10 kids or something, it's a little bit hard to have a different parenting style with each and every one of those. So I think as much as you can afford to, you do need to parent each of your kids differently, but you need some ground rules that you can come back to and say, okay, ultimately this is our guiding philosophy in parenting in general. And then, within that philosophy, we have slightly different approaches with these kids. Because what Tyson said is completely right. I've got my son Reese, who I've hardly ever had to discipline him. Like, even just to kind of a look from me is enough of discipline for him, and he understands and wants to do something differently. And then my son Cyrus, doesn't matter how much discipline he gets, he's going to dig his heels in even more, to the point where for behavioral problems with him, I'd almost rather find ways to completely prevent the behavior that I'm trying to correct than to allow it, but then discipline. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Just, yeah. So you really do want to pay attention to how they respond to different ways of behavior correction and where their heart is at.
It's a very multidisciplinary approach depending on what your children responds to. Well, it's like when you have somebody, I relate it to coaching so much, because when you have a kid who has the potential to be better, how do you bring that out of them? Some people respond really well to kind of the harsher criticism,
right?
And that's how they excel. I'm that way. Some people do not, and that will crush them. And you really have to pay attention to the details, because if you get that wrong, you could very well hurt somebody's development in a certain different way. And I think a lot of parents don't take that seriously enough, where I need to be focused on what works best for each child, and then kind of attack each situation with that angle.
Yeah.
Because, boy, it's just like you said, you can't do a broad brush because that doesn't work, especially if you have lots of kids. And there's only a certain amount of time in the day to be able to address every single issue for every single child. So, yeah.
That coaching analogy is really interesting. Do you find that, like, having been part of a team, have you ever coached?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, do you find that kind of helps you as you parent?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, my girls are pretty young yet, so it's not like their personalities aren't on full display yet.
Yep.
I think probably once they're, approaching 6, 8, 10, that might be a little bit different.
Yep.
But I do see that with other people and how they interact with their kids. It's almost like they know the best way to handle a situation that might be difficult.
Right.
And get the best outcome. And that is so fun to watch. That's like mastery.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they get it right every time, but it tells me that they take that very seriously, and they're doing their best to navigate that.
That's a skill that I would love to build. One of the things I look back on my upbringing, I'm like, man, it would have been nice to, like, be a part of a team once in a while and kind of be in that environment. I really wasn't, never into sports. To be fair, my parents really didn't put a lot of emphasis on that anyway. And, seeing, learning an individual, how are they going to fit in as a part of this team? What's the right way to coach them? Those are skills that I'd like to build. Because when it comes to parenting, it seems like that'd be huge to kind of be able to see those unique talents and giftings better and think about how that fits in the broader family.
Right. Matt Renato was on episodes 70. I can't remember. He was talking about this because he remembers in college, we had a coach who was really hard on us, like probably too hard on us all. And we were playing at a high level, and he demanded a lot out of us. And when we didn't get it, he let us know, and it put a lot of people on edge, and their performance suffered.
Interesting. It was overboard.
Way overboard, I think.
Yep.
I respond okay to that. Most people don't.
Yep.
And it was hard to watch, and he references, it was hard to watch really good players not reach their potential or even show you what they can do, because in the back of their mind, they were stressed out, or they were hearing a voice, or, it affects, especially in a game like baseball, like it's a hard game already, and it makes it so much harder. I also thought it was interesting because, have you ever seen the Ron Clark story?
No.
So this teacher from Midwest somewhere went to the inner city. I want to say Harlem, and was a teacher. And you can see him picking out different ways that all of these kids learn in different ways, and really bringing their potential out to the forefront, and realizing that you have to do that different for each student. Teachers will tell you this. I mean, when I was in my master's program for education, the multidisciplinary education was taught pretty heavily. You might have 15 kids that learn 15 different ways. Yep. It's your job to kind of get the best out of all of those in a certain window. So, yeah.
Yeah. You're the third child, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a birth order thing to that at all. Because I'm the exact opposite. Like, that style of coaching, I'd be like, screw you, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So that doesn't work. I think birth order, could definitely.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm just curious if there's a factor there.
So you don't like that?
No. No, I respond a lot better to, being given the opportunity to kind of step up, but with some encouragement, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's probably a birth order thing.
I wonder, because I think my son Cyrus, my third born, would be a little bit more respondent to, like, that, a little bit harder style of parenting. Just seems to me. Yeah.
Does it have to do with understanding? So when I'm talking about leadership, and I'm talking about discipline and stuff in your family, I guess what I'm kind of getting to for you personally is, what is your outcome in an optimal situation? Like, what kind of outcomes do you want for your kids?
I probably would have answered this differently 5 years ago, but I think what I'd like is to see them do the thing in life that they really, really love. And to be challenged. I mean, that's just so important, to be continually on that path of like, okay, I'm challenging myself. Okay, I figured that out. Now what's the next challenge? And so, yeah, for my kids, I want them to stay in relationship with their family and be really close with their family long term. I want them to go out into the world and, make mistakes and learn a thing or two, the school of hard knocks, so to speak. But ultimately I think that just finding that thing that, okay, God made me to do this, and it's a place where there's that perfect intersection of like, I have skills and giftings here, but it's also difficult. I try to help them find that.
How do you facilitate in your parenting style, allowing your kids to kind of go through hard things and figure out that it's okay?
Dude, that's hard. As a parent, I mean, I don't have to tell you, you've got two beautiful girls. Like, you don't like to see them go through something hard. You want to swoop in and fix it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that balance of, okay, they need to learn that that's life and that that can be good. Like, you can learn from that, you can grow from that, but not push it too far. And I'm still figuring that out. But I think, it's important to, in the moment, that you have that parental impulse to just fix it and to check that and be like, okay, is that a short-term play or a long-term play here? Because if I'm just making things easier for them and me in the short term, but long-term I'm taking away an opportunity for them to grow in their character, maybe I ought to let them stew in this a little bit.
Life is hard, man.
Yeah.
Like, life is going to throw you a lot of curveballs, and if you don't know how to hit, if you don't know how to recognize it, if you don't know what to do with it, it's striking out's not that fun.
A few people I think are gifted to learn from other people's mistakes, but most of us have to learn from our own mistakes. And you got to give people an opportunity to make those mistakes.
Have you ever been in that kind of situation?
With my kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example.
What about for you? Like in your life growing up, do you feel like that's been true for you?
Yeah. I look back and certain things about how I grew up, I'm like, man, I feel like I was allowed to make too many mistakes maybe. I think my parents kind of swung to that end of things a little bit, a lot of autonomy in some ways. To give you an example, when I was, I believe I was 8 years old, I smashed our tractor into the hay elevator. And at the time, I felt really bad. I was like, sorry, Dad. Like, I bailed out. It was still in gear, and I bailed out because I didn't know what to do. So it's just sitting there kind of pushing against the hay elevators, the wheels spinning in the dirt. Dad jumped on and saved the day. And he handled it well. He wasn't livid or anything like that. We bent the elevator back into shape. But looking back, I'm like, I've got an 8-year-old. Like, there's no way in a million years I'd let my 8-year-old touch a tractor by himself. Yeah. So to think of even being in that situation at that age is a little wild in retrospect. But yeah, I mean, I had a lot of opportunities growing up to make mistakes, and there's a lot of growth in those opportunities. So I'm trying to think of, how do I give those opportunities for growth to my kids? Mm-hmm. And if you frame it as opportunities for growth, that sounds better than how do I let them make a bunch of mistakes?
Right. And you're kind of framing personal growth in that. When I was growing up, I'm a rule follower to a T.
Yep.
So, and maybe this is a birth order thing that we talked about. My younger brother, not that way.
No.
He's like, I'm going to go and learn for myself.
Yep.
And I'll learn mistakes my own way, and that's how I learn.
Yep.
That's fine. I don't remember ever being conscious of a decision being like, it's probably not a good decision, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I think it's a birth order thing.
It must be because like you say, different kids are very different. I mean, there's certain kids that are looking for ways to break the rules.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's possible that they see so much more value in learning through that pain. I'd rather learn, like you said before, from other people's mistakes. So maybe I'm one of those. I can see when things go wrong, and I don't want to duplicate that. So I'm one of those, I guess, one of those rare ones that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's like 1 in 10 or something that are gifted to be able to do that. My sister Sally's that way. I've seen, she's got wisdom beyond her years, and I've seen her be able to look at other people's lives and learn from that. For me, not so much. I think in theory, I'm like able to, okay, I see, correlation here. And yet I have a hard time really getting my head around it until I've made the same mistake for myself. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that hurts.
Those sharp pains do teach you valuable lessons.
Yeah.
As long as they're not too severe. And so, they can cost you a lot.
Yep.
So you have to kind of be careful and wise too in that front.
Yeah. But having the opportunity to learn them earlier on when the stakes are lower is really important, because the stakes only get higher as you get older.
I think one thing that my parents really got right, and I talked about this on the last episode with my dad, they maintained that the relationship was strong no matter what your decision was. They'll give their input, give some wisdom on the situation, but ultimately it's your decision. But then no matter the outcome, it doesn't affect how much value you have to us. It doesn't affect your relationship with us.
Yes.
Not to tell them we'll be here in the pieces, to collect the pieces afterwards, but we'll be here no matter what the outcome is.
Yep.
And you have the freedom to do that. It's such a healthy place to let your kids go out and explore, make mistakes, triumph in certain areas, to know that security in that relationship won't be changed. I think that's something they really got right.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Yeah, just knowing that their love's not going anywhere, that you have the freedom to take their counsel or to not, and ultimately, 99 times out of 100, you wish you would have taken it.
We'll see how good I am at that. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to have to work on that, I think, because generally my personality is I'm a fixer. So if there's a problem, I just want to fix it.
Yep.
And I'm learning now that I need to not do that so much for other people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it takes away their opportunity to work through it, and then it kind of puts you in as the all-time fixer, and that eventually you become the fixer in too many different situations, and that's a heavy thing to carry.
Yeah. Okay, let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about you. We said you're in a first quarter arc right now, so we're going to shift a little bit to fitness and discipline that way. So what has that journey been like in the last? Did it start on January 1st?
The cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever the Monday was of that week, it was December 29th or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I started a little before New Year's.
Okay.
Yeah, I like starting on Mondays.
Yeah.
Seems like the right day to start.
What's that all about?
Yeah, it's something I'm doing with Corwin. And
of course.
Of course. He's down.
Boss.
He's always down.
Yep.
He's my coach through it. I'm reporting back to him every week. Here's my weight and what do I do with my calories. It's great. This time around, it's not because I have to. It's because I want to. My body fat's in the high teens, which is a pretty healthy place to be. I think I'm 165 pounds lean mass, which I'm really happy with. I've been able to put on quite a bit of muscle over the last handful of years. So it's not out of oh man, I have so much to work on or whatever. It's more just I had a handful of months of probably eating a few more calories and carbs than I should. And
the holiday months.
It started in September, actually.
Oh boy, what? There's no holidays in September.
We went on a cruise at the end of September.
Ooh, nice.
So it started there, and then it just got worse from there.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
We went to Bermuda. No, that was, we've been on a couple of them over the last few years. This is actually a northeast, Canada coastline.
Okay.
We went,
nice.
So we started down in New York City, and then Boston, and Newport, Rhode Island, and Bar Harbor, Maine, and then up in a couple places in Canada too. Nice. So yeah, it was the perfect time of year for it. It wasn't cold. It was a nice September. Cool sights and sounds and all that fun stuff.
I've never been on a cruise.
No?
Never. No.
Do you like boats?
Yeah, I would go.
Dude, it's fun.
I know. I just got to convince my wife.
With kids, it's a really nice option.
Really? Okay.
We have found that because there's enough to do that you don't have to think about what are we gonna do today. You just wake up, go eat breakfast, no dishes to do, no food to cook, and then it's all right, we're gonna do the arcade. We're gonna do there's just a lot of options.
Okay.
All cool. Right close by.
Have you done a lot?
Over the last handful of years, we've probably done 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
Yep. Once a year.
That's a good option.
Yeah.
So that kind of all you can eat, right?
Yeah, so that started the lawlessness in my diet, and then October, November, December was all the same, just holiday after holiday.
Well, you can't really start in November or October.
I know, at that point, it's we're going to start dieting now? No. So I put on, I mean, yeah, I went from 185 to 205 over those 4 months. And not all of that was body fat, but most of it was. Yeah.
So what is the main goal then? So this is just for, you're already in a pretty good, healthy place. And now you're doing it, you said, just for you.
Yeah, just it's a great way to start the year. Challenge yourself a little bit, see some results in one area of your life. Winning in one area of life always spills over into winning in more areas of life. That's what I find. So I'm shooting for 12% body fat, and hopefully by March 31st.
What other areas of your life have been affected by that?
By more discipline in my diet. Well, I'm all of 12 days in now, or whatever it is. I think when you're disciplined and you see the results of that discipline over time, it's like, okay, what other things could I do a little bit each day that would compound? It starts to retrain your brain that, like, okay, these little things each day do compound into real measurable progress over time. So I would say, business is another one of those areas that I really apply that to. Another area is daily devotions with my kids and my wife. And that's something that, like, it takes months and years to really see the compounding effects of that. But I know it, the progress is real over time. Yep.
You're talking about habit stacking, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. That's a better term for it. More eloquent.
Well, I like the way you said it, because it does spill over into other areas of your life where you realize, if I'm consistent with one thing, it's not that I'm just not a consistent person. It's just I'm not putting in the effort. I'm not delaying gratification long enough to see the results that I need to see.
Yep.
And how that can affect other areas of your life. Physiologically, already, there's benefit there. Mentally, there's benefit there.
Oh yeah.
But I do think that part of my journey with fitness, especially lately, has been realizing that if I put in the work, I'll see the result that I want. But more than that, how can I use this in other parts of my life that I'm not very consistent in and I'm not very disciplined in? And there's plenty of those.
Yep.
Like, there's lots of things where I'm just not disciplined enough.
Yep.
And I need to train myself that way. So yeah, I'm in a similar boat with that.
Do you want to make some brain gains?
Of course, brain games.
Brain gains.
Brain
so,
gains.
One other thing that I neglected to mention a minute ago is, as a family, we're kind of keeping better tabs on our use of screens.
Okay.
We had, especially November, December, we'd kind of fall into the habit of, like, every night turning the TV on for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. Some nights more than that. Mm-hmm. And so not only for my kids, but also for me and for Emily, we're being really intentional starting the year off at, like, okay, we have a certain budget. Like, we've all decided, we've aligned, this is the right amount of time to spend in front of the TV every week. And then the kids know, okay, this is what we have to work with. We want to use it tonight. Do we want to use it tomorrow night? For me, one of the metrics I track really closely is phone unlocks. I think that's almost more important than screen time, because I find that the mindless habit of pulling out the phone is really not good for my mind. And I think it was Huberman I was listening to recently talked about how important for creativity boredom is and silence in your mind is. And so I've been trying to incorporate some more of that in my life. Like,
what are you doing, locking yourself in a closet? And just
no, like, here's a trivial example. Today, my family was at a birthday party for a lot of the morning and early afternoon, and I usually come home for lunch around noon. I work outside of the house and then come back, and so I made myself pizza, and, like, I don't know, I made the crust and everything, a protein crust, got to get those macros, and it took half an hour, and, like, that would be. Normal Evan would be like, all right, what YouTube video am I going to watch for half an hour while I do this mindless thing? Right, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And today I was like, nope, not going to do it. Just going to, like, be alone with my thoughts. So trying to find more ways to incorporate some silence and some boredom.
Good challenge.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that out.
Brain gains.
Have you seen any, like, benefit from that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, creativity is the big thing. I think that our culture's obsession with smartphones has really stolen people's creativity. Yeah. And unfortunately, AI is only compounding that now, where people will farm out any and all creative tasks to AI. And listen, dude, I run a business where I implement AI solutions for people. Like, I've got nothing against it in principle. Well, maybe, but I think that it can go overboard, especially when we start farming out creative tasks to AI and writing and all that. Those muscles atrophy. And so that's, I think, the biggest thing for screens is that creativity is being stolen away.
That's a really good point. I don't know if I've ever really thought about it that way. It is interesting that when it comes to discipline, I mentioned this on the 75th episode. Nick came in and interviewed me for the 75th.
There you go.
No other person that should have done that. So he came in and did a great job. But one of the points was we were talking about discipline and different guests that we've had on talking about discipline. And somebody had asked me, like, do you think you're a disciplined person? And I think my initial answer was something like, kind of. And then I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, by definition, how can you be kind of disciplined? Like, discipline is a muscle memory that you have to have over time to say, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to start stacking these habits so that this becomes my routine and builds consistency in my life. Yeah. And when you're not, when you're sometimes disciplined, that's just inconsistency. Yeah. That's all that really is. Yeah. And so that has been a challenge for me lately. Like, I'm going to be more consistent, build that discipline over time so that when I lack motivation, it kicks in for me. Yep. And I'm maybe a month into that and seeing some pretty good fruit, but ultimately it's my decision. Like, I have to do it. Nobody else can do it for me. Yep. So you can tell somebody 100 times over how to be a disciplined person, but if they don't pick up that cross and bear it, right, it's not going to happen.
Right. And even for us personally, you and I, like, discipline is the how, right? Discipline is how we get from A to B. If we've got these objectives and where we are doesn't match those objectives, discipline helps you span that gap. But if you lose sight of what the objective is, the why, and it starts to be all about the habits and the discipline, eventually that gets really burdensome and really heavy. And so continuing to kind of go back to evaluating some of that and like, okay, why am I doing this? How does this support my goals? And do I have the conviction to continue? Because otherwise we're all going to burn out on those things where we've lost that why and we've gotten so consumed with the how of discipline.
Yeah. And when you have a weak why, that's when people fall apart and through the cracks. If your why is serious enough to, you know what, I'm going to take my fitness seriously and my health seriously because I want longevity to be a good example. Yeah. I want to live long and be with my family. Whatever your why is needs to be strong enough to uphold this hard stuff that you're going to go through.
Exactly.
Because if you're doing it for superficial reasons, if you're doing it for reasons off a whim, like, you're not going to follow through on that.
Yep. And that's the classic, like, January 1st, the gym is packed with people. And it'd give it 10 days tops and the gym is right back to where it was before in terms of how many people are there.
Your why is not strong enough.
Right. I mean, new year, new me is not a good enough why typically.
Yeah. Corwin, when he came on, he was talking about discipline, and he's had an interesting relationship with discipline, almost like to a fault, and he would agree, and he said that on here. You can be over disciplined, and it can consume you.
He and I have talked about that somewhat.
Yep. But at one point he said, you have to look at it and say, what do you want now versus what do you want most? What do you want now is a whim. What do you want most is a why. And what, what is the entire framework behind that? Because if you're extremely overweight, let's say, and diabetic, and your health outlooks are not looking good, a pretty important why could be, I want to make it past 50. I want, and this is a lot of the things that I'm thinking about mostly is I don't want to just spend time doing things that are frivolous. Like, I don't want to waste my time. And so there's a lot of very important whys, and all of the outcomes for your kids and your family, just look at them. Like, look at the health benefits when you work out with your family. Yep. So figure out your why.
So important. So important to start with why. I'm reading a book by Simon Sinek. It's called Start with Why. And, if you get that backwards and you start with, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be consistent, and it's going to be a brand new me, and it's unmoored from that objective or that goal, it falls apart real fast.
So let's relate then the why to your fitness. Okay, because you're now into a few weeks into your little thing.
My little cut, my Q1 cut.
What's the deep why? And then what are you doing to achieve that why?
With fitness? I think it is, the deepest part of it would be, longevity has to be a part of that answer, because all of us want to enjoy as many years as the Lord sees fit to give us on this earth. And I saw recently that one of the highest correlated biomarkers with longevity is muscle mass.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's causal necessarily, but that, that correlation is what it is. There's a real relationship there. And so that's a big part of it. I also want to build a family culture of we're active people. We're people who take care of our bodies and steward our bodies well. So I think at the deepest level, that's a big part of the why. More superficially, it's really great to put on any t-shirt and have it fit really well. That's cool too. But I think that the family tie-ins with that are beginning to be more and more of my why. And frankly, I've really been enjoying, I think I mentioned this earlier, working out with my son, and all my other kids beg to go to the gym. Most of them aren't quite old enough yet, but it's a fun family time too.
You mentioned muscle mass and longevity. So we're not just talking calories in, calories out, lose weight, get to a healthy weight. You're talking about putting on muscle. What's your routine look like?
I go with the classic 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I try to get that every day. So right now I'm trying to hit about 200 grams of protein a day. I'm in obviously a slight caloric deficit right now. I might be in a 500 or 700 calorie deficit daily, nothing crazy. Honestly, dude, the more muscle you put on, the more you can eat. You know this really well, and I like being able to eat a lot too, so that's great. What was your question again? I feel like I answered half of it.
What are you doing for your program? Or
my split in the gym is pretty minimalist, because I don't have a ton of time to beat in the gym every week, to be honest with you. So I'll probably go to the gym 4 times a week right now and try to spend maybe 45 minutes there. So it's not much. 3 hours a week. Yeah, I mean, you got to shower afterwards and stuff, so maybe 4 hours a week with driving and all that. But it's kind of about how do I maximize the outputs relative to the inputs, because I don't have a lot to put into it in terms of my time.
Okay.
And nutrition is it's cliche to even say this at this point, but nutrition is 80% of it. I mean, it really is. And the nice thing about that is it doesn't take a whole lot of extra time. Once you build some systems around it, it's unsexy. Everything I eat, I put on the scale first. So there's a lot of muscle memory of weighing your food and putting it into MyFitnessPal. But once you kind of get over that learning curve, it's pretty effortless to track the calories. And that's probably 80% of the battle.
I think that's something that most people have a hard time with. My mom's good at that, not me.
Tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my brother-in-law, if he wants to lose weight, you just track his calories and take care of it. But
yeah.
Interesting. I'm not that way.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely.
I do Cal AI for about 2 weeks, and then I'm like, it's a little too much. It's a little too much work.
Yeah. I'm not the first person to come up with this probably, but I do feel that I found a system that really works well for me. I used to be super dogmatic about calorie counting, to the point where if I didn't know the exact number of calories in something, I just wouldn't eat it. I'd be like, well, I got to find something else. So if I went to a restaurant and they didn't have calories on the menu or something, I was like, okay, I guess I can't eat here. Or if somebody brought me a meal of lasagna and I wasn't the one who put all the ingredients in, it's like, well, I guess I can't eat it. Lately, over the past handful of years, I've developed a more flexible but equally effective way of doing it, I think, which is calorie density. So how many calories per gram? And most lasagnas, for example, are going to be 2.25 calories per gram. I don't know what exactly that number is. It's probably a pretty close number. There's variations, right? Some are going to be 2.5 and some are going to be 2. But in the aggregate, you can choose some heuristics like that where it's like, okay, a donut is going to be about 4 calories per gram or 4.5 calories per gram. And that really gives me a lot of freedom. So then I just take that caloric density, multiply it by how much I eat, and log that on MyFitnessPal. And so it's been equally effective in terms of the results, but allows for a lot more flexibility. So I'm a big fan of caloric density, kind of that method of tracking.
I don't think I've ever heard it put that way.
Yeah, calories per gram, bro.
Calories per gram.
Yep.
You heard it here first. Trademark.
TM. Verbal trademark.
That's a contract. That's a contract. Verbal contract.
What's that from?
It's got to be The Office or something.
I think it is, dude.
Yeah. How much of counting calories and keeping an eye on calories is just a pure psychological rewiring?
I mean, it initially feels quite restrictive. Like there's if you can get through the first 2 weeks of it, then you're good to go. But that first 2 weeks is what's going to be make or break if you're going to stick with it, because it's just nice to be able to eat what you want. And as soon as you have to not only be mindful of, okay, here's my limit for the day, but I also have to track everything to see if I'm hitting that limit. There's a big curve to get around. And once you have rewired kind of how you think about calories, to your point, it's hard to go back. I mean, even, you know what I mean? Like I can tell you, on a Christmas day about how many calories I had, which makes you cringe a little bit, but it's just, once you kind of are good at doing that math and kind of doing that estimation, you can't
you see
really
it on
go back.
You almost see it on the plate in numbers.
Yeah,
I've heard of people talk the same way about, because it can be very monotonous you don't want to be bringing a scale to TGI Fridays or whatever and measuring.
That was me and Applebee's the other day, bro.
No way.
Yeah, I knew we were going out. I knew we were going out in Syracuse for lunch, so I had a really small breakfast that morning because I was saving 1,500, 1,800 calories for Applebee's.
Okay, and
then I had the whole plate Fiesta lime chicken on my scale. Weigh it beforehand, weigh it afterward. Do the subtraction. 2.0 calories per gram multiplied by 700 grams is 1,400 calories.
Okay.
Yep.
And. But I have heard
every single calorie that I eat goes
most
over
people
the scale.
That aren't crazy like you and bring your own scale. Eventually, you can start to see the calories on the plate and kind of get an idea. Generally speaking,
if you're in maintenance mode, that's a really good way to do it. It would be hard to try to maintain a deficit that way, I think.
Right.
Because psychologically, your brain's looking for every reason to eat a few more calories when you're in a deficit.
Right. That makes sense.
But maintenance mode, I could see really easily just being able to kind of estimate each day.
Does what the calories, let's put it this way. Are all calories created equal?
Well, let's put aside the micronutrient thing and focus on macronutrients for that question. The answer is absolutely not. There are calories that are much more satiating than other calories. High protein in general works really well for me. I feel more full. But there's a lot of foods that have a lot of volume to them, and for one reason or another have a very low caloric density.
Chicken.
Right, exactly. I mean, chicken, well, and that one's got protein going for it too, but even like shredded lettuce, adding a bunch of that to tacos or something like that. I mean, it's like, 0 calories per gram. Is basically free from a caloric standpoint, but it's got enough fiber and enough volume to it that it really adds to the satiety after that meal. So there's definitely tricks to Krispy Kreme donuts you could eat 4 of those in a sitting.
So good.
1,500 calories.
That's
and
crazy.
You're going to feel about as full as a 400 calorie, high protein, high fiber, so that feeling of how can I maximize my feeling of fullness even while maintaining a deficit is critical. Yep.
You just like to nerd out about this stuff.
This is so bad. I challenged coworkers to kind of a weight loss contest back when I was probably 21 or something like that. And I was at that point I was already kind of a nerd about it, and they weren't. So the deck was stacked against them to begin with. But I had, some of them were kind of falling off the bandwagon, or they liked the idea initially, and then they were kind of getting over it. And so I did a stunt for a few days just to prove that like it's truly just calories in, calories out. I ate nothing but McDonald's for like 3 days. And stayed in a caloric deficit and showed them like, listen, I'm eating nothing but Big Macs and I'm still losing weight because I'm maintaining this deficit. And so I can say that I was way hungrier in that caloric deficit than I would be with the same number of calories if it was better foods. Right. Also, I got sick, and that was probably probably related to the fact that I ate McDonald's for 3 days. So not a recommendation. Just saying
all
that
your coworkers
it
like
truly does
snickering.
boil down to calories in, calories out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like you say,
interesting.
not every calorie is created equal.
Yeah, I think most people would agree that maintaining discipline in your diet is by far the hardest thing. And boy, yeah, it's very easy to grab a donut. I mean, we live in such an abundance society.
It's true.
So that it's very interesting the psychology of how stores are laid out.
Yep.
And how they know where to put the healthy stuff and where not to put the healthy stuff. And so I think there is something to the argument, and then what's in the food and how's the food been produced and all of that kind of stuff does matter. And then you bring in pricing, and then it's expensive to eat well or eat smart or eat healthy.
It is. Yeah. You gotta find those. I know it's kind of a shame that it's laid out that way, but part of it's supply and demand. I mean, if everybody was begging for the healthy stuff, there'd be more economies of scale and the price would be driven down over time. So part of it's a supply and demand issue, but it's pretty terrible that it's easy and cheap to eat bad, and it takes a lot of money to eat well.
Compounding problems.
Yep. Yeah. But there's ways though. There's ways. You pick up some nice 93% lean ground turkey at Walmart. Price per pound there is maybe $4. Not terrible. Great value. Greek yogurt, non-fat. Pretty good price on that stuff as well. So you just got to find the things you can afford. Chicken breast.
When are you starting your Evan's Fitness YouTube channel? You can go into Costco and all these places and tell us what's healthy.
Dude, I follow some of those guys. I follow some of those guys on YouTube and other places, and I do enjoy it. Especially, there's something about being in a caloric deficit or on a cut and watching like food-related content. Just scratches the itch.
That's really interesting. That sounds almost as absurd as when people like sniff food and they're like, well, if I smell it, it feels like I'm eating it. I'm like something about that just doesn't seem right.
Dude, Corwin and I did a 10,000 calorie challenge a few months back.
Why is that not on YouTube?
It is on YouTube.
No way.
Not because I filmed it, but because he did. He had the presence of mind to film it.
Is it released?
It's also like 2 hours long, but
I'm going to watch it.
It is on YouTube. It's released.
That's awesome.
Adventures with the Christmans.
Okay.
Yes.
Check it out on YouTube.
But he was saying that when he's been in a really extreme deficit, like preparing for a competition or whatever, he'll watch those calorie challenges.
Interesting.
Because it's just like, okay, if I can't eat it, I would at least want to watch somebody else gorge themselves. I don't know what the psychology of that is.
Yeah.
It's probably
not the healthiest.
Not healthy.
That's awesome. I totally would understand that. It makes total sense to me. Especially I get a lot of like motivation from fitness influencers, and if people want to say that, there's nothing online that's productive. It's like, no, well, actually, some of that stuff actually gets me going.
Absolutely.
And for sure. So yeah, it's so funny. I'm in a caloric deficit. I get to watch somebody else enjoy the food. Hey,
it works, man. It works.
Whatever works.
I did not finish the challenge, by the way, the 10,000 calorie challenge.
You did it?
I got about 8,000 in and lost my lunch, so to speak.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. I bet that's not in the video.
Might be in the video. I was not near the camera for that. I was in the bathroom for that part of it.
10,000 calories. Boy, I think I could do it. Maybe not.
There's easy ways and hard ways.
Okay, all right.
If you're allowed to blend stuff up into shakes and just chug it, you could pound 10,000 before lunch if you really wanted to. So the way we did it, we weren't allowed to do liquid calories, and that was quite a bit harder.
Why didn't I get an invite for this?
I don't know, bro.
I should get an invite for.
You should have gotten an invite.
We should do it on the podcast.
10,000 calorie
It's
challenge.
a terrible idea.
Like we watched a guy who did 50,000 in a day, which is absurd, by the way. And like really dangerous.
What's his name? Joey Chestnut? Is that the guy's name that does the hot dog?
No, it wasn't him.
Hot dog guy.
But he basically was just, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. He basically was just dumping a bunch of olive oil into these like chocolatey shakes he was making. And it's like, okay.
All right. That's just,
Right. Like a gallon of olive oil, like you could hit 10,000 calories pretty easily. I mean, 50,000 is still absurd, but so there are ways to do it a little bit easier.
What parameters did you guys use then?
Yeah, we weren't allowed to get any of our calories from liquids.
Oh, okay.
But you know, so lots of donuts and cheesecake and pizza and all that fun stuff.
Which sounds fun, but at the end of the day, you're kind of like,
It was fun up until about the 5,000 calorie mark, and it was like, are you serious? We're only halfway through this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
About there, I was like, I want to be done for the day. And I've tracked calories on like holidays and stuff where I'm not limiting at all. Like I've, Christmas or Thanksgiving I've tracked before. I don't think I've ever hit more than 5,000 calories in a day just eating how I want to eat. Like that's about my limit. My body, once I hit 5,000 calories, like, all right, that's good for a day. And so pushing past that was actually harder than you'd think.
How come I can't find Adventures with the Christmans? What the? Come on, YouTube. Adventures with the Christmans. Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's not bringing it up for me at all.
Listen, bro, he needs to use Opus and get his name out there a little bit more.
I just got to look up real quick. This won't be in the, I'll edit all this out, but I got to see. 10,000 calorie challenge 2 weeks ago. There you are.
How long is the video?
2 hours and 6 minutes.
He was like, I didn't edit anything out.
Anything?
Okay, some things.
Oh, boy. Dude, I think that's hilarious. That would be crazy to try out. Everybody's got to check out that video. 10,000 calorie challenge with the boys.
Dude, it was fun.
It was 2 hours and 6 minutes long. I'm going to check it out.
Eric Seegers did it with us.
I see.
He crushed it.
Did he?
He did well. He has an unfair advantage, I feel.
Why is that?
Because he's a large guy.
Yeah. How tall is he? He's up there.
6'3".
He's a big guy.
He's just all around big guy. So I felt it was unfair.
It's not fair for little guys to go against big guys. And
I know us short kings trying to compete against a guy like Eric Seegers. Come on.
Do you know the comedian Drew Lynch?
No.
He's the one that had the stutter. You don't know who that is?
No.
Oh my goodness, he's short. He has a whole entire special on short kings.
Really?
We went to the Funny Bone in Syracuse.
Okay.
Which is like a comedy club, and he's a pretty big deal. Like he was
Drew
on
Lynch.
America's Got Talent, and I think he almost won, or he did win.
Okay.
And so we got to like sit real close, and Nick and Brielle went with Stephanie and I, and he did this whole thing on short kings, and man, was it ever hilarious!
That's awesome.
Holy cow. All right,
Drew Lynch. No, I can't believe I listen to a lot of different comedians on YouTube too.
I'll have to show you. All right, so let's okay, so we talked a little bit about tracking calories. I used to use Cal AI. You also mentioned AI for artificial intelligence before. Let's blend the two things.
Ooh.
I would love to get your opinion because you're a tech guy on AI in the future.
Okay. I've thought a lot about this, believe it or not. I have some serious concerns. Let's start there. Every tool that comes out replaces the old way of doing things. And there's an argument to be made anytime a new tool comes out. Okay, but we're going to lose this skill we used to have because now this new tool makes it easy, right? As soon as the hammer and the nail is invented, whatever old style of fastener becomes obsolete, and the skills associated are lost over time. My wife is getting into spinning some yarn, and there's a few old ladies in the area who have a spinning wheel and like have some skills around how to make your own yarn out of wool. But for the most part, that's a skill that's disappearing. And so the advent of any new tool is going to necessarily bring along with it the atrophy and disappearance of skills that were associated with the older tools. And in general, that's okay. In general, if we have rifles, we don't need to be so good with bows and arrows anymore. And maybe that's okay. But AI, though, tries to replace creativity and judgment and logic, and we're talking about a mental atrophy with reliance on AI, and that's what really worries me, because unlike skills that are associated with a particular craft or trade that are like, okay, pros and cons to the new tool, but we're going to use the new tool because it's more efficient. When you start relying on artificial intelligence to write content or material, or to put your thoughts in an order that makes sense. Those are skills that I'm not willing to lose. And I don't think as a culture we should really be willing to lose, but we will, and we are, the more that we rely on these large language models. Also, have you ever heard the term AI slop?
No.
No, okay. Like,
please tell
I'm
me.
pretty active on LinkedIn, and there's certain guys or girls or whoever on there that are just clearly writing all their posts with AI, and there's something about it that's just lacks personality. It's hard to even put your finger on it, but it's like it's obvious when something's written by AI, and it's not as compelling or interesting. But the nature of AI is it's always training on whatever's out there available publicly. And so every time a new post gets put into the LinkedIn ether, that's being used to train new models and update models. But eventually you're training on AI on content that was generated by AI. And so the whole thing just gets sloppier and sloppier. It's kind of a feedback loop of garbage. And yeah, I mean, I think that there's a real danger there too, where people are losing their ability to express themselves and to write and to speak because they're relying on AI to do that. But eventually AI is going to get worse at that if we don't inject new, real creative and novel material into the ether. So I don't know. I said a lot, but I have concerns.
What would be an argument for it?
I mean, the efficiency gains are ludicrous. Like, it's hard to think of many white collar jobs that are not somewhat at risk. Right. And that's saying something. Like, I can go to a lawyer and pay $400 for them to write up a contract with all the perfect legalese, a purchase offer for a house, or I can put 10 bullet points into a large language model and say, hey, I want to write a purchase offer, make sure to include X, Y, and Z, but otherwise use standard language, or feed a template in and it can come up with something that's pretty darn close. Not to say that everything a lawyer does can be replicated by AI, but there's certain cash cows like that were just rinse and repeat in certain professions all day long that are simply not as valuable anymore. And that, I would apply that to my own line of work as well. I mean, writing code, if writing code is all that I do or my company does, we better find a new line of work to be in, because, AI can write code all day. So there's definitely some huge efficiency gains. And that's probably the best argument to be made for it, is like, hey, what if we can sustain the same GDP as a nation with 20% of the effort that it used to take? That's compelling.
I had a friend who was working on a dissertation, essentially, and had already framed it all out and done all the work and everything like that. I ran kind of the prompts through like a chat GPT and told it to give me a dissertation, more or less, and it was striking.
The similarity with what he wrote?
Yeah. And obviously it's not quite the same. It's not the same depth. But yeah, pretty crazy to think. Yeah. I also think that there is some benefit to learning, I guess, instead of having to do, and you could definitely make the argument that doing the research, finding where the research needs to be, reading the books, sourcing it out that way is very valuable. But some of it is a time game. And if I want to know a complex answer to a complex question, and I don't have a year to study it, and I would like synopsis written out in seconds. I can understand how maybe, like as you said, it's an efficiency thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of tasks. I mean, I say all of what I'm saying today as somebody who uses large language models daily. Again, in principle, I think that it's a tool like anything else that needs to be treated with some caution. But there's a lot of running a business, for example, that's kind of grunt work. Like, okay, I have this client, this prospective client. We've talked about what they want me to do for them, but part of the game is you write a proposal and there's a signature box and you have to do these things. And I can write proposals in 3 minutes now that it would have used to taken me half an hour to write. And so like, that's just grunt work that I'm not getting any extra value out of me writing that by hand. They're not getting any extra value out of me writing that by hand. So it's really just 27 minutes that are now effectively wasted if I choose to do it by hand. And I can just do, feed a few bullet points into a large language model along with a prompt template that I've developed that says, here's how I want my proposals to be structured, and bada boom.
But you can also erode essential skills by relying too much on that over time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the question each of us has to ask ourselves is this a skill I'm willing to lose? Because if writing proposals by hand is a skill that I'm not willing to lose, I better not have an AI do that for me. But if it's a skill that I'm willing to lose that skill over time in order to save time, you can make a case for it. Other things though, like, more strategic activities, or designing a system. Like a lot of what I do in my business is designing data flows or designing applications. Like, you start farming that out to AI and you're going to lose those skills pretty quickly. And that was the valuable part of what you knew to begin with. So I think each of us has to ask, okay, this thing that I'm pumping through a large language model, am I willing to lose this skill?
Right. Yeah. There's definitely plenty of downside. And I think maybe some upside. And you have to kind of determine whether that's going to be net positive for you or not. Like you said, am I willing to lose that skill? It kind of reminds me of when I was in high school a long time ago.
Ooh,
yeah, I don't want to
ancient
date
history.
myself. Yeah. And one of my teachers said, you're not going to always have a calculator in your pocket. Did you ever hear
were
that
they
at all?
wrong?
Boy, couldn't have missed the nail more than. But if I was to sit down and work out complex algebra equations or trigonometry, how practical is that skill now? Is it something that I'm willing to lose in order to have a calculator in my pocket?
Right.
Spell check that's been the argument around spell check forever.
Yep.
If you're just constantly using spell check, well, then eventually you forget how to actually spell things.
Right.
So,
and part of it, I think there's a way to be overly fearful of skills being lost. Because again, every new technology that mechanical harvesters, like,
yeah,
except for the Amish, nobody knows how to harvest any other way anymore. And like, that's okay. That's a trade-off that we're okay with as a society. But there are certain skills that I think if we thought about it, I'm not okay losing that skill. So
especially when it starts to affect workforce and livelihood and jobs and stuff like that, it starts to become a very different discussion.
Yep.
So I think like on your day-to-day practical application, even in a work sphere, let's say, using it may be beneficial. But over time, a lot of those jobs that you said, what about a paralegal? Is that job going to be obsolete in 5 years?
You sound like Tucker Carlson right now.
Oh, geez.
I don't know how I feel.
Canceled.
How do we get back to politics? No, I don't like. I don't know if I agree 100% because I don't know if jobs for the sake of jobs is a good enough reason to keep jobs. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because there's always a new job out there that didn't exist 10 years ago that is going to exist in 10 years. And so I don't buy a lot of the fear mongering around job loss, I guess. I don't know. History has not shown that really happens. Most people are still employed.
Would you thoughts on the rate of exchange though? Like even in the last 20 years, technologically speaking, we saw this from the boomers, learn to code, the whole thing.
Dude, I read this book by Brett Weinstein and Heather Hying, his wife, called A Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century. And they make a case in that book that the rate of technological advancement has outpaced what we as a species are able to keep up with, which we've created that rate of advancement, but now we can't keep up with it. And they go through some of the negatives of what that can do to us mentally and emotionally and societally. So I think there's a really compelling case to be made that like the rate of change over the past couple decades has been too fast, and that's bad for us.
Right. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying is I'm not sure that our skills for the new jobs market is being attacked with the same fervor at the high school level, college level.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people we're sending into tech when it seems that that's the future.
I think that hashtag learn to code thing is already obsolete. I think if I were to counsel my kids if they were 10 years older and looking at college or looking at whatever, the stuff that is really going to be safe from automation and AI is trades,
yeah,
and real creative tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Like so much of like partially creative things has been kind of farmed out to large language models. But like I said, a lot of that content lacks personality and lacks soul, and you can spot it a mile away. And real human ability to tell stories in a compelling way, I think will actually get more valuable over time as AI slop overwhelms the internet.
Yeah, it's well said. Did you see the in Japan they have like AI road work being done? Have you seen that? It's all digital and computerized rollers and asphalt. Have you seen
serious?
that? Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
Japan always takes it too far.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't see AI coming to fix your plumbing anytime soon. But you're right though. Like maybe at some point the jobs markets become the most valuable thing are doing things with your hands.
And here's the thing too. There's something intrinsically more beautiful about things made by humans. Like think about any mass-produced object versus the same object made by a master craftsman. Like there's something much more beautiful about going to an Amish furniture store than buying something off a Wayfair. Mm-hmm. And like efficiency and automation and AI help us get to this cheap price point, repeatable product. And I'm good with efficiency. Like I like cheap stuff. And especially when I've been broke, I really like cheap stuff.
Yeah.
So I got nothing against a bottom shelf option that's made more efficiently. But I think that the stuff that's made by real people that's more beautiful will only continue to get more in demand and more valuable as time goes on, because there is something about a one-of-one work of art or piece of furniture or whatever, hoagie,
yeah,
whatever that is, pizza. Like there's something about
conveyor belt from McDonald's.
Right. There's something about conveyor belt products that are just not nearly as beautiful as human made products. And so that's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Interesting. Because a lot of the narratives surrounding AI will be that many lower, I don't like saying lower skilled, but that's kind of what it is. The lower skilled work will be replaced by automation, will be replaced by AI, leaves all of those people kind of adrift without specialized skills in the new technological era.
Yeah.
It's almost like a new generation of learn to code almost. Yeah. If you don't have those stepping stone jobs and you don't maybe have the particular skills for a trade or haven't learned the trade, I could see how there would be an argument where maybe some people would be left out.
Yeah. It brings me to like the Andrew Yang, UBI stuff and all that,
right?
Which is such a complex topic. I've actually heard a few decent arguments in favor of it, to be honest with you.
Me too.
And
weirdly,
right. Like I love the idea of living in a society where no one ever has to go hungry. Like that's a good thing, right? When food or essential things are so inexpensive and so efficiently produced that everybody has access to them, to me, that's a good thing. The problem becomes that there's going to be a certain element of society that if they have access to televisions and Xboxes and alcohol and just vices, and okay, there's, I'm not against any of those things in principle, but moderation, right? Will basically just spend their day on the couch. And so how do you simultaneously bring in the benefits of higher efficiency in production and manufacturing and, a more of an abundance globally without the inherent risk of, okay, if people don't need to work, they're just going to sit around doing nothing? Because there's people like you and I, Brock, that are always going to be hustling and going to the next level and challenging ourselves. But there's a lot of people who, for one reason or another, whether it's because they're already caught up in an addiction or they had a pretty crap upbringing and just don't have, even a vision for what's possible in life, are going to choose the couch. And that's a really real drawback to all of this.
you don't get to replace purpose and drive with automation. It is so true.
Amen.
I think
Well
that
said.
if you want to talk about what a meaningful life looks like, or what a fulfilling life looks like, it's not the things you said. Talk about despair when
Right.
you are aimless on a couch playing a video game all day. Like you're not gonna feel that sense of purpose that you need to drive you to.
What was that part of your brain you were talking about earlier that like is like the will to live or whatever?
Yeah, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Wow.
Right off the
That's
top.
an
just
SAT
like that.
word
You
right
like
there.
that?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I think when we were growing up, what was the word that you used to love to say?
Oh, pneumano ultramicroscopic silica volcanoconiosis. Still got it, baby.
You still got it. Yes.
And I think that the libertarian inside each of us, like, feels like we have to defend people's choice to just do whatever they want with their lives. But I think that there is a really real argument to be made for, like, maybe social media just shouldn't be accessible for people under 16 or 18 years old. Maybe, you know, well, like, definitely pornography should be illegal. Like, there's just all these things that, like, libertarians feel like they have to make a case for. And, like, I think we need to maybe just put more guardrails on what people are allowed to do with their time, because as time becomes more abundant for folks who are able to just get by and live, which again is good. I like that people have access to everything they need. I don't want anyone to be in want, but there is something about not having what you need that really lights a fire under you.
Right. I think most people don't understand that. Like, it's actually good to be challenged. It's actually good to struggle and good to suffer a little bit.
Yep.
My dad just spoke about this on his last podcast about how do you being raised without much teaches you a lot. And it's probably one of the most valuable things that you can have. A grateful heart, how to be thankful, the family unit, the ties that you have together, the time spent together. When you don't have a TV or access to all kinds of modern comforts and technologies, you're kind of forced to spend time with each other.
Yep.
And most people's memories from that generation are very fond because of that.
Yeah.
We used to sit around and just play games and talk, or go for a walk. We used to do those things. We don't do those anymore.
Yep.
So, and how do we as parents now, as generations and life creep happens, now I'm in a much better position than my dad was.
Yep.
And who was in a better position than his dad was. And how do you still instill those values in your kids of a grateful heart, delayed gratification, all of these really valuable things that you need in life to be well-rounded and deal with some of the hard things in life.
I think there's a real strong case to be made for kind of artificially creating some deprivation for your kids, even if you could give them all the things they wanted. Like, just because society at this point is kind of libertarian with, like, okay, do whatever you want, spend your time however you want, doesn't mean that we as parents have to be that way inside our own households. And like, allowance and chores and screen time and all of these things that we could just kind of let our kids do whatever they wanted, and it'd be a lot easier as parents to just have them sitting in front of something mind-numbing. There's probably a really good case to be made for depriving them of things they want to kind of teach those same values and skills.
Mm-hmm. Some of when I look at like my grandparents in particular, some of the qualities that they have that I appreciate the most, humility, contentment, and thankfulness. It's not about what they own or the lack thereof. It's not about their bank accounts. It's not about experiences they've been in. It's about their character.
Yep.
And man, I wish that we could get to those core values as a society again.
Yep.
It's not all about you. It's not always just about your impulses and your needs.
Right. I like how you said it earlier. It was a whim versus a why, right? So much of people's lives these days is just whim-based.
Yeah. Abundance-based. I deserve based. Right. Yeah. Okay. Before we go, because we'll wrap up here. Before we go, we have to talk about this because this is something that you mentioned you wanted to talk about. Tell me about giants in the Bible.
Uh-oh. Okay. There's this strange handful of verses in Genesis chapter 6 where it talks about the Nephilim, or in the Septuagint, the word is giants, were on the earth in those days and also afterwards when the sons of God came into the daughters of men and took wives for themselves, and they bore these giants who were the heroes of old, men of renown. And there's, I think, the consensus among early church fathers up until, I think it was Augustine, was like, this is clearly talking about angels taking human wives, which nowadays is starting to come back into the mainstream a little bit more. I've been on this for about a decade, and even 10 years ago, like, it was less accepted that, like, yeah, this is talking about angels cohabiting with women. So there's this, like, I think Augustine kind of came up with this, like, Sethite theory where it's like, okay, when it says sons of God, what it really means is just, like, godly men. And then daughters of men really just means, like, Cain's line of, like, ungodly women or something like that. And they would make this case for, well, it's just talking about, like, godly people taking ungodly wives, which is totally kind of reading the supernatural out of that passage. But, like, when you consider, okay, like, what if this is actually talking about real angels taking real human wives and having real giants as offspring? You read the rest of the Old Testament, and all of a sudden, like, the David and Goliath stuff makes sense. And by the way, Goliath was not the only giant that David and his mighty men killed. There were other relatives of Goliath. I think they were in Gath that are named in the Bible that were also killed by David and his mighty men. And then, you have Joshua's conquest of the land of Canaan, and they're terrified. They're like, we are like grasshoppers to them, is what the spies come back with. And only is it Caleb is like, no, we can do this. But the other 11 are like, nah, or 10 or 11 are like, we're terrified of these guys. But that thread is all throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament, by the way. I believe why it's such a footnote in Genesis is because the book of Enoch already had it all written down and captured. And so the writer of Genesis is like, yeah, this is where they came from, but the book of Enoch is kind of the main source of a lot of that. And that's a little bit controversial. Again, I think the book of Enoch is getting more publicity these days, and people are willing to talk about it a little more. But people still squirm when you say, hey, there's like this book that's not biblical, that's not in the Bible. I'm sure there's a reason for that. The Holy Spirit was involved in the whole process of the Bible being put together the way it is, but there's still good stuff in it. We should probably still know this book. Like, some Christians get really antsy when you start talking like that. Mm-hmm. But this, what's 4 little verses in Genesis 6 is fleshed out in chapters and chapters in the book of Enoch. I'll pause there. I said a lot, but
why do you think people avoid the more mysterious or uncomfortable parts of the Bible, like you're describing?
That's such a good question, because the very crux of our faith is Jesus miraculously being resurrected from the grave, not into his old body, but into a glorified body. Other resurrections have happened before Jesus. He wasn't the first person to be resurrected, but the New Testament, I forget where he's called the firstborn from the dead, because he was the first to be resurrected into a glorified body, not back into his old body. And so, like, the very core of our Christian faith is this miracle of resurrection, and yet other supernatural stuff we're uncomfortable with. That's never made sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Or the miracle of creation.
Right.
But then we just because we can't get our heads around other things in the Old Testament, perhaps, we kind of discard it. I mean, I don't know why. I've heard before, oh, well, the flood didn't really happen. That's just whatever. But I believe that God created the earth. Like,
right. Why do you have to downplay this if you're good with this?
Exactly. So the scale is everything can be created, but he can't flood the earth. that jump seems so illogical to me.
Right.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you can believe in God, but not that he can do anything. Yeah. It's a weird thing for me.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely a tendency in our modern culture to downplay most of the supernatural or weird or mystical aspects of what you see in Scripture. But again, that it seems inconsistent because, like, if you take away all the miracles, then we don't have any faith. Like, then there's nothing to it.
Yeah, and the whole premise is based on that.
Exactly.
So how can you? Yeah, it's interesting. So what drew you then to kind of learning more about this story in Genesis?
Yeah. So it's a weird.
I like weird.
It's a weird path. Okay. Stick with me, Brock.
I'm right here.
So probably about a decade ago, maybe not quite. I think it was, Joe Rogan and a few other places. I heard some interviews of people who had experimented with ayahuasca or other like
psychedelics
forms of DMT. Well, DMT in particular.
Okay.
Dimethyltryptamine. And what I couldn't get past hearing all these different accounts is the consistency across different people's experiences, right? Because there's most drugs, and I'll admit, I don't have a whole lot of experience in this domain. I don't have a crazy testimony of all these drugs, and then I got clean. Like, I don't have a lot of experience personally in that domain. But you think of, like, most drugs as kind of just throwing a bomb in somebody's brain, and things are crazy and wishy-washy for a while, and then they sober up. And then DMT in particular, the types of experiences people would have were so remarkably consistent across different accounts that I couldn't help but think, like, okay, is it just like their brain is going haywire for a while, or is there something real that they're experiencing on these psychedelic drugs? And, like, for example, almost everybody who does ayahuasca reports encounters with different, like, entities or beings. And I think I forget who coined this phrase, machine elves, but some guy who's kind of, like, big in that whole space, called these beings machine elves, and everybody's, yeah, that's a good way to describe what I experienced too. So, like, the fact that people could even agree on, like, okay,
yeah,
machine elves is a really good way to describe these entities. Like,
such a random thing.
How are people having this consistent of an experience? And so that led me actually to the book of Enoch, because I was kind of like looking like, okay, how do I reconcile this, what seems like kind of a backdoor into the spiritual realm? Like, that's how I see it. Okay, I think they're experiencing real, parentheses, demonic entities that when they're tripping on these different drugs. Where is that in the Bible? Like, there's got to be some evidence somewhere in the Bible or somewhere that, like, this was on people's radar before today, that there's, like, this backdoor into the spiritual realm and that people have these experiences. And by the way, the word in Greek that's often translated sorcery is pharmakeia, which shares a root with pharmaceuticals. So, like, there's, sorcery, I think, in the New Testament is synonymous with use of psychedelics and other drugs. I think it's kind of one and the same. But Enoch talks about these fallen angels bringing heavenly mystical knowledge to earth that humanity was not meant to have. And it lists a bunch of different things, metallurgy and different, knowledge of different metals and alloys that, that leads to more brutal warfare and more bloodshed, different seductive arts. It even talks about, like, using eye makeup and stuff. But it talks about the cutting of roots is one of them. And that was the one that stuck out to me. What does the cutting of roots mean? And so I forget where I found this online, but somebody made a case for that kind of being talking about, manufacture of drugs and psychedelic compounds. And so that's kind of what got me onto Enoch. And then of course from there, that whole exploration of that giants theme in the Bible. But yeah, I think that we steer away from the weird supernatural stuff in the Scripture, to the point where we're kind of in our own comfort zone scripturally, and we kind of ignore the stuff that would take us out of our comfort zone, which I think is the exact wrong approach to the scripture. Like, I think we ought to be leaning into those things that we can't explain, and digging into those, because that's going to help expand our understanding of how everything works in the spirit realm. And I think ultimately it's going to give us a better understanding of the scriptures and that whole narrative. Two guys that I really, really respect and admire and would commend anyone to consume some of what they've written and said. Michael Heiser is a guy who is one of the masterminds behind Logos Bible software, and he's a Hebrew scholar. He's now deceased, unfortunately. He died of a pretty aggressive cancer not too long ago, but he has written a lot about the spiritual realm and what we can see from it in the Bible, and how our modern Western Christian understanding is really simplistic compared to what the Bible actually says about the spirit realm. One of his best books on that is called Unseen Realm. It's kind of the seminal work, and then he's got a bunch of different books on it, but Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser. And then another guy who, again, I've been on him for a long time, but he's now starting to become popular, is Tim Alberino. I don't know if you've ever heard of Timothy Alberino. He's got a book a couple of years old called Birthright, the Usurpation of Adam's Dominion on Planet Earth, I think is the subtitle. It's really good. It's weird. I don't know if I agree with all of it, but he's wrestling with real questions that we should be wrestling with. Like, I thought angels were like wishy-washy spirit beings. How does it make sense that angels can create offspring with human women, for example? And just questions like that are kind of uncomfortable, but really worth wrestling with. So those are two authors that I'd highly recommend.
What do you think is the overlying reason for why, you said kind of the Western church especially, is not comfortable with the curiosity side of the spiritual realm, I guess?
We have confused understanding the mechanics of a thing with that thing then being stripped of meaning. So, thousands of years ago, before modern astronomy, people looked to the heavens for signs and for knowledge. And as we've learned more about how the heavens function and how things orbit other things and all this, we've made the mistake of thinking, okay, because we understand the mechanics of this system, it's meaningless. And that is such a wrong conclusion to draw. I think it's so interesting that the birth of our Savior, Jesus, you have not too long, not while they were in the manger, probably, definitely, but these wise men coming from the east, which is probably talking about Persia, following the star, and they understood what this heavenly sign portended. They understood that the appearance of this new star meant something really significant, and probably because there was writings that talked about this and foretold this, probably because Daniel spent some time in that context and was a prophet himself. But these dudes were like, okay, we see this star, we're following the star, we know what this sign in the heavens means. And just because now, 2,000 years later, we have a better understanding of the mechanics of astronomy, doesn't mean there's any less meaning baked into it. And I think the same is true across all domains. Put astronomy aside, pick your domain. We feel like, okay, we understand the mechanics of biology or heritability or genetics. And so that means that, there's no such thing as visiting the sin of the fathers in the third and fourth generation, and, but blessing to, 1,000 generations. Like, yeah, I think that's what we've got wrong in the West, is like, oh, we understand it now scientifically, therefore it's meaningless. Wrong conclusion.
And then the more that you explore that thing, the more pushback you get, because it's already been kind of predetermined on if that's supposed to be valuable or not.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we like to, on a psychological level, think that we have things figured out.
Right. And like, oh, we think we figured out, evolution, and so like all of this, is meaningless. And to be fair, I think that evolution is actually being challenged scientifically now, and there's some really big challenges that people who are, Darwinists have to reckon with. But Yeah, I think that we've stripped things of a lot of their meaning because we think that our scientific understanding negates the spiritual and supernatural stuff that's built into it, and that's exactly backwards.
Mm. What about evolution has gotten your attention lately?
There's some mathematical challenges to the mechanism of natural selection and mutation. Kind of, I've listened to some really interesting content by Stephen Meyer and a few other dudes. There's like a really good video. I highly recommend people go and find it. It's like a mathematical something against evolution. I wish I could remember the exact title of the video, but they basically go through like, okay, so few mutations are actually beneficial that for this mechanism that we think drives evolution, which is those, 1 in a million mutations that actually do end up being beneficial are then incorporated into genetics, and eventually you have, an amoeba turning into a monkey or whatever. Like, the math doesn't math when it comes to the supposed time frame of 14 billion years and the evolutionary progress that's allegedly been made across that time frame. The math simply does not math. So I think that mathematical challenges to evolution are probably some of the most promising. But it was always an atheistic thing to begin with.
Predisposition. Yeah.
It was always about trying to figure out how can we get around God, and I think that people are getting tired of that. Mm. I don't think it was ever as credible as anyone wanted to think it was.
Mm. Have you ever gotten any challenges about the way you think about some of these things?
Yeah, I mean, back in the good old days, arguing on Facebook as a teenager, I got plenty of challenges. I realized over time that was very ineffective, and I'd have the same arguments with the same people, and their minds never changed. So
no way.
I've changed my tactics a little bit. You'd be surprised just how open-minded people are once you have a real relationship. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I've kind of been learning is, like, once I have rapport with someone, we can think very differently, and they'll hear my ideas. So as I've started to not argue with strangers about stuff, I've gotten less pushback.
Interesting. Yeah, I think probably in the last couple of years, a few of my family members and myself as well have been taking a very different approach to how we were raised in relationship with the Bible and how we were told basically how it works. And yeah, it's been a pretty interesting journey so far. And I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that, yeah, look into things. Don't just be indoctrinated by something.
Yeah. Yeah. Question things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Question things.
Yep. We don't have to be scared of questioning the things we believe. Like the truth
things that we
always
don't actually know
holds up to scrutiny. Yeah. Exactly.
Because a lot of times, I think the biggest issue has been you can't challenge things that we actually don't know.
Right.
Because, well, that's not the way we do things, or that's not our perception of the Bible, or how we look at Scripture. And yeah, I think you're right. It's the wrong way. Because the truth is most of it you don't actually know for sure.
Right. And yeah, I think that we have this kind of fear that if we challenge or if we look into things too deeply, it's all going to crumble. And the exact opposite is true. I think as we, the word Israel is like he who wrestles with God, right? Like that's why Jacob was renamed Israel, is because he wrestled with God. And I think there's a sense in which all of us, to build our faith, kind of have to do some of that wrestling.
Are you familiar with Tim Mackey?
Yeah.
You like Tim Mackey?
Bible Project?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like his? Do you listen to him?
Yeah.
Much?
Well, I listen to the Bible Project. I've listened to some of Tim's stuff, but a lot of what I've heard has been the Bible Project.
He likes to kind of get into this stuff.
Yeah.
Especially the Genesis stuff.
Okay.
I think you'd be interested.
He's been very influenced by Michael Heiser as well.
Okay.
I've heard him talk about Dr. Michael Heiser quite a bit.
Okay.
He's kind of the OG.
Okay, I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, highly recommend. His stuff, his writing's very academic. It's a little bit like Takes some getting used to reading, but it's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what I like about it is it's not speculative. It's like, here's the Hebrew words, here's their context culturally. Like, they weren't talking about godly Sethite men and ungodly Cain lion women. They were talking about actual angels and actual humans and actual giants.
Which is interesting, right? I mean, we don't like to look that far into it. Like, we want to go to church and be told this and this and this, not all of those nuances that are actually very important, like the context of the time and all of these things. Like,
right.
We just throw that out. We just discard that. Like,
right.
And take everything in our modern context, and we try to apply it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's the opposite of exegesis? Eisegesis? I don't know. Like, exegesis, which is the way we're supposed to study scripture, is what did the author mean by this? Not what does it mean translate, filtered through my own culture, but what did the author mean when he or she wrote this? Yeah, you can turn up some pretty interesting things when you approach it that way.
Yeah. What's next for you, man?
Well, this last year has been terrifying and exciting all at once. Started a business about a year ago, and that consumes a lot of my time and mental energy right now, probably too much. But I want to make it work. I want it to be a success. Part of that is just my pride and the fact that I really hate losing, and like having the business not work out would feel like a loss. But it's exciting though. I've got Alan Bojan working with me. He's a high quality guy. I love Alan. And so it's just, we've got a lot of things going for us, and we're trying to build a high-tech business in a not particularly high-tech area, which is an interesting challenge. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll be here for it. And anybody who hasn't watched your 10,000 calorie challenge really should, right?
Link in the description below.
Collab. We can collab. Dude, well, we got to a bunch of really good things. I mean, only probably half of what I wanted to get to, but for the interest of time, and we have lives and families. We can't do we can't do a 7-hour podcast.
We'll get there someday.
We'll definitely do it again. I hope you enjoyed it. It's really fun for me.
Dude, thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
And next time we'll do the sauna instead of the cold plunge.
I love that idea.
All right, man. Until next time, appreciate you.
Thanks,
man. See ya.